everyone. Welcome back to class. How are you all? I hope you all are good. You all are doing very well. So, have you watched the last session of this chapter? That is the wastewater story. And maybe you have some idea about it. Now, what's the wastewater is, why water is important, what's the water pollution is, what are the water pollutants. Exactly. We have discussed all of these things in the last session. So now what we are going to discuss in this session, you'll say that, ma'am, we have discussed already what is water and we have seen this thing that, okay, water pollution, importance of water. Now what is left? So students, these are the topics which we are going to cover today. It is that how we are going to treat the polluted water, because there are some ways. Oh my God, why my pen? Yeah, now it's done. So that it is the treatment of polluted water, wastewater treatment plants, citizens' duty to conserve water, that means our duty, that how should we conserve water, sanitation and diseases, sewage disposal. So these all are the topics which we are going to cover in this session only. Okay, so now start with the session, because these are some important points also. So now first of all, we are talking about the treatment of the polluted water, that the water which is polluted, so how we are going to treat it. So students, there are some of the steps, or you can say some of the stages which you can say which the polluted water passes, and then after that we get the purified water from the polluted water. Okay, now the very first step for the treatment of the polluted water is to collect the polluted water at one place. Exactly, that the water which we are getting from the houses, offices, schools, hospitals, or from any other places also, that means first of all that all of the wastewater or the polluted water should be collected at the one place. If the water is not collected at the one place, so how it is going to be purified? That means we have to make the plant one at different places. So that is why, student, what happened, that the pipes are arranged in such a way that all of the wastewater is collected at the one place, and that we called as the, and we can see that the wastewater plant, or it's just that the place where the water has to be treated, we call it as the treatment center, as you can see. So pipe takes water to treatment center. That means exactly is to that the water from the houses, then it is going to be transferred to the treatment center with the help of the pipes only. Exactly. After that, student, that the polluted water which is collecting in the treatment center, so what happened, you can see that so many stages are there. Now what is going on in one particular stage, so we have to see this thing. So first of all, it is the screening stage, as you can see here. So that means the water screen, that means what type of pollutant it is having. Fine. Now after the screening stage, it is passed to the primary treatment stage. That means first stage, where it is going to be purified with some of the substance. So in the primary treatment stage, what happened, that the solid particles, that the solid material which is present in the water, it is going to be removed from the water in the very first stage. Fine. Now when the solid particles removed from there, then it goes to the secondary treatment stage. Fine. That means this is the first stage, this is the second stage. Now when the solid particles has been removed, but now it may be possible that some small particles which are pollutants may be present over there. So what happened, that we use some biological filters in the secondary stage, so that the small particles, small bacteria, impurities will be left behind. Fine. So that's how in the secondary treatment stage, that in the first treatment we are removing all of the solid particles, like big solid particles, and in the secondary treatment we are removing the small particle, and it's like that we are using the biological filters. In that, biological filters means that you can see that, students, and in the filtration process, the ROs which we are having in our houses, so they are having some type of filter paper, and these filter papers are made in such a way that the impurities will left behind, like bacteria is there, or some very small bacteria, or any other type of organism, if it is there, so it could be left behind, and the impure and the pure water will come out of it. Exactly. So in the secondary treatment stage, what we use the biological filters, so that there will be the removal of all such waste material. Now after the removal of the solid and the small impurities as well, now it goes to the final treatment stage. So in the final treatment, you can say that it is the last stage, where you can say that it could be the tertiary stage. Primary means first step, secondary means second step, tertiary means third step. So in the third step, what we generally do that we add some chemicals in it. For example, we can do chlorination in this, as I have told you in the last session that what's the chlorination is. So we can do chlorination in this process, in this step. That means maybe some of the, we can say if by chance any impurities is left after the first or the second stage. So in the third stage, those impurities can also be removed. So that's how student we can see that the stages are there, and after passing of the each and every stage the water is going to be purified, and after that when the waters get purified, so we filter that water into the river, and through the rivers that water is coming to our houses or to the offices or some other areas. So that's a student the treatment of the polluted water can be done and that can be reused again. Okay, so now we can read this thing. The sewage first goes. Now, sewage, we know that's the wastewater which we are getting from our houses only. Wastewater, or from like the water, wastewater which we are getting from the community of the people. If you remember that the sewage first go through a primary phase. There is where some of the suspended solid particles and inorganic material is removed by the use of filters. That means in the very first stage we are having the filters, and with the use of the filters we remove the suspended or the solid particles from the water. Now, after removing all of these things, then it goes to the secondary phase. Secondary phase involves the reduction of organic. This is done with the use of biological filters. As we have seen, that means removal of the organic waste material is done in the secondary stage. Now you will say, ma'am, what meaning of the inorganic and the organic? See, students, inorganic material like some kind of minerals, we can say that not unwanted thing. And organic waste material, for example, you can say human wastage also. Fine. So, a wastage of our body, that's how it can be removed in the secondary treatment stage where we are using the biological filter so that the microorganism or any bacteria can be filtered out at that stage. Fine. That means now solid particles has been removed, inorganic particles has been removed, then organic waste material is also removed. That after that we can see that we can say that the 80% work has been done. Now, in the final stage, what is there? The final stage of the treatment is the tertiary phase, and this stage must be done before the water can be reused. So then the water and the chemical additives are supplied to get rid of any leftover impurities. As I told you that we can add the chemicals in the third stage, so that if any of the impurities has been left in the water, so it can be purified completely. Like I have told you, chlorination, one of the example is there, or the filtration or any other thing, so that we can use such things. And if any impurities is there, so we can remove it. And after all of these process, we can filter this water into the river, and through that river the pipes are connected and we can get the water in our houses. So this is the whole process of the treatment of the polluted water. Exactly. Do you want me to repeat it once again? Okay. So first of all, what's the step is that we have to collect the polluted water at one place, and then we transfer that water to the treatment center through the help of the pipes. After that, screening stage is done, that what type of particles is there, or that's how. Okay, after the screening stage, student, there are the three other stage. So in the very first stage, there is the removal of the solid particles or the inorganic materials with the help of the filters. After that, secondary stage. In the secondary stage, there is the removal of the organic waste material with the help of the biological filters. That means by using some filters so that the bacteria or any other microorganisms which is unwanted, it could be left behind. Fine. After the removal of these things, then the final stage is there. So that what happened in that stage, we add some chemicals so that if any of the impurities is there, any, so it could be removed, or it just that it that if, as we have seen that the chlorine is acting as a disinfectant, so we can use such chemicals so that if any impurities is left over, it can be removed from it. And after that, when all of these stage has been completed, then we filter this purified water into the river, and again, student, the river is connected through the pipes with the houses, and that's how water can be transferred. That is the purified water. So this is the treatment of the polluted water. Fine. Okay. Now, what is the wastewater treatment plant? Obviously, student, that treatment plant is was that the where the wastewater is getting treated. So we call them as the wastewater plant. So sewage treatment is the process of removing contaminants from the municipal wastewater containing many household sewage plus some industrial wastewater. Exactly, that we have seen that what is the sewage? Sewage is what? It is the wastewater which is generated by whom? With like by us only, people only. So that means it is having the particles or the impurities or the contamination is there because of the household wastage. Exactly, whether it could be any type of wastage by bathing or by cleaning or by using the bathrooms or the toilets. So that's how we are getting the sewage water. Exactly. So the treatment of that sewage wastage, that means the removing all such contamination from these from that what we get. Oh, sorry, what I was telling you, that the removal of all of these contaminants from the water, that means from that wastewater, we call, and the place where it all the process is going on, we call it as the wastewater treatment plant. Fine. And even though it could also include the industrial wastewater. Fine. So physical, chemical, and biological processes are used to remove the contaminants and produce treated wastewater that is safe enough for release into the environment. Fine, student. That means these wastewater treatment plants are used to remove the contaminations or the, we can say, the impurities or the unwanted things from the wastewater which we are getting from the houses or the industries by using different processes like chemical process or any biological process, so that the contaminants or the polluted things will get removed from the water and the wastewater get treated, and that's how that water is safe to release in the environment. That means it is safe to release in the rivers or the lakes, so that it could be again transferred to the houses. Okay, or we can say supplied to the houses. So that is the wastewater treatment plants. That means the area where the treatment of the wastewater is done, so that we can purify it by removing such contaminants or the unwanted thing, and we can make it in such a way so that we can use it again. We call them as the wastewater treatment plants. Fine. So we have seen that how can we purify the polluted water, and now we have seen that what are the wastewater treatment plants. Now, citizens' duty to conserve water. And now, students, what the thing is, should I teach you this topic? Like, what could be the duty of every citizen so that we can conserve water? See, there are so many things. First of all, it's just that use water very wisely, like the proper amount of water which is required, use that much of water only. Don't use extra amount of water if you are doing anything. Fine. What you can do is, like, if you want to wash your car or any of your bicycle or motorbike, so what you can do is that you can use the water which you have used for your for washing clothes, because what you have to do is you have to remove the dirt of it. So why to use the very fresh water for it? Exactly. So that's a student that you can use the water, that you can conserve the water by following many different ways. So some of the ways are written here. Practice conservation. That means how we are going to conserve water, that we should start conserving our water. That, as I've already told you, that use only that much amount of water which is required. For example, if you are brushing your teeth, so just turn off the tap so that the extra amount of the water is not going to be flow. We get Oh yes, exactly. So, and what else is that, for example, that in our houses that we use some kind of motors, so that water is there in the what we call them as tanks, water tanks actually, which we use for our houses. So what we could do is that we have to take, like, we can use that to we can collect water in it, and it is that what we can do is that we have to note some time that we have to use the, or we have to operate that motor for that particular time, so that it can completely fulfill the amount of the water in the water tank. If we can see that if we are using the motor for a very long time, so it could be possible that water can overflow from the water tank, and when the water is going to be overflow, that means it is directly going to be some pipes or some many sewage. That means that pure water is going to be polluted. So that's how we can start the conservation of the water, by following these ways. So one of the best way to ensure sustainable water resources for the future to practice conservation and smart water use practice today. Exactly, student, that as I told you that if you are washing your clothes, so that water you can use for cleaning the roads or some area outside your house, or you can use that water to clean your cars or bicycles, so that there will be the less use of the fresh water. Exactly. So first step is to practice conservation, that start conserving the water. Okay. And what happened is, like, some people used to have a bath, used to take bath in the shower. So what they can do is that they can use start to bucket, so that the less amount of the water is going to be used up. Exactly, because when we use shower, so we can see that the more amount of water is going to be waste. So that's how we can we can start using the bucket, so that the less amount of the water is going to be waste. Fine. So that is the first condition, that we should start practicing the conservation. Second, support watersheds. That means watershed health is as essential to protecting water supply. Most water infrastructure spending focuses on built infrastructure, but investment in watershed conservation is essential to ensure water security. What happens, student? That support watershed, that means the water where we are collecting the water, it's not only about the industries or the water plants who are purifying the water, it's our responsibility also. For example, I have given the example of water tanks. So we are having water tanks in our houses, so that means, student, that we should use the watershed. That means if we are having water tanks, so we should use the in such a way that when the water is going to be filled in that tank, so it should be covered up. Exactly. If for what happened na, that even though the treatment plants which we are having, they just invest over their infrastructure, even that they don't care about the water security. That is why, student, it is very important that we have to support the watershed. If we are collecting water in somewhere or in some area, so we should collect it in such a way that it should be covered, so that no any other unwanted particle is going to impure it. Exactly. Ensure quality, like quality, we can see that as we have talked about the good quality water and the bad quality water, and when both mixed up, so we can see that the good quality is no there, like we can't see the good quality water, it's just only a polluted water. So that's a, student, we have to ensure the quality of water. How? From source to deposit to waste, maintaining water quality requires the and in actually it was some blurred for me, so that's why intersectional approach. Contamination can enter waterways from runoff, groundwater pollution, and the older infrastructure as well. For example, student, how they are talking about water, like how to ensure the quality of the water. So as I have told you that if any place or if any area, we know this thing that there is the pure water or the good quality water is collected. So what we have to keep in mind, that if we are going to pass the wastage of our house or any factory or any industry, what we can do is that we can use such a way, or what we can do, that we can use some kind of pipes or something like that, so that water can be passed to some other area where the polluted water is going to be collected. Exactly, so that we can ensure the quality of the good quality of that collected water. Exactly. Grow green infrastructure. Green infrastructure is an important part of how drinking wastewater storm agencies can provide innovative, effective, affordable water surfaces. Now, what's the grow green infrastructure? That means, student, that as we know this thing, that green infrastructure is because of the mainly the afforestation. That means we should c- consider the afforestation, because we know this thing, when the afforestation is there, so the water level is going to be maintained in the soil or in the ground level as well, because rainfall will be there. Exactly, so all of these things are indirectly depending upon each other. So these are the duties of our citizens. It's not like that these are the duties only, that four points are written, so it's not like that that we are having only four duties. If you want to conserve the water, so students, there are many ways that we can't even think that how many ways you can use or you can apply, so that water can be conserved. There are so many important points, like you should cover the water which you are not using, you should use the water wisely, proper amount whenever you are using it. Or it's just that, see, I'm not talking about the drinking one, because drinking water is somewhat need of our body. Exactly, so we can't we can say we can't compensate with it. that okay, we want 7 glasses of water and we are just taking two, so it will be a bad impact on you, only on your health. So drinking is not the point about here. So it's just that whenever we are using the water for a household work, like for bathing, for clothing, for washing, for any of the use, so it's just that we should use a proper amount of water or the very less amount of water so that our work can be done properly. It's not like that if we are using 5 buckets or 10 buckets, then only the cleaning is going to be done. Exactly, even though we can use the 2 bucket of water wisely and our whole house is going to be clean very well. So that's a student, many duties we citizen, we people have to do so that we can conserve the water, because plants and animals can't do this thing. Exactly, we only human beings are responsible for it. We are responsible for the water pollution and we can be responsible for the water conservation as well. It depends on us that what we want, that we want the culprit for the water pollution or we want the responsible citizen for the conservation of water. Okay, so now it's up to you or it's up to everyone that what they want to be, that they want to be become a, that they want a tag of that they are creating the pollution for the water, or they want a tag that they are conserving the water. So what's the good between one of them? So exactly, it's the conservation of water. And as I have already mentioning this thing, that when you start conserving the water, so indirectly, or we can say definitely, it is going to be reduce the water pollution only. Fine, students. And what else you can do is that whenever you are going some places and you are visiting any of the place where the sea is there, or beaches are there, or rivers are there, so what you can do is that you can you whatever you are using, like wrappers or the eatables or something like that, so you can put them into some polythene and in some bag, so that you can throw them somewhere else, that in the dustbins, if you are not having dustbin at that point. But don't throw them over the sea or over the beaches or near to the lakes or into the rivers, because again, what is the thing, student, that we are studying all such things and we are not following up, so what's the use of studying all such things? Exactly, so it's our duty only, so that we can conserve the water, we can use so many steps, or we can follow many steps, so that the water conservation will be there. Fine. Okay, okay. Actually, by by noticing this thing, I got one point also. What happened? Na? Like I have noticed this thing that in my school, what happened that the tap area, the water area over there. So there is one pipe, and it was leaking around two, maybe from 2 to 3 weeks, and we have noticed this thing that some of the students have complained about this thing also, that the water is getting wasted. But it's like that maybe the school management was not hearing that thing. So what happened that one day, a large group of students went to the principal office and then they complained that it's the water leakage is there, and it's not a good thing that the water is getting wasted. So exactly, student, if any water leakage or any pipe is leaking, so it's your responsibility to resolve that problem, so the water should be conserved. So that's a student, by following such small steps, you can conserve a large amount of water. Exactly, it's just that you don't have to do so many efforts, like you have to take care for whole day and you have to see that who that the other person is doing or not. So it's not about other person, it's only up to you. If you are doing something good for the water conservation or for your environment, so definitely by looking at you, other people are also going to follow you. Exactly, and that's how whole community of the people are going to conserve the water. Fine. Okay. Now it's the sanitation and diseases, that when we are not when we are not following the sanitation, and then we are getting the diseases. Exactly, sanitation means, students, that the cleaning of the environment. Like if any impurity or any dirt or any waste is present around us, so it's our duty to clean that area, or to follow up some steps so that the sanitation is maintained. Because if the sanitation is lacking, so definitely you are going to face some diseases. What happens, student, that for example you are traveling in a bus or in any public transport. So what happened now, that in the public transport, so many people travel that on daily basis. So what happened that you are sitting on a chair, on a seat in a bus. So what would be the possibilities that the we can say that the seat or any of the cover over there, so it has been touched by many people. So it could be possible that you can touch that area, and when you are reaching your home and you are not cleaning your hand, so that means your hand is having impurities, and with that hand only you are eating the food. That means those impurities is transferring to your food, and that food is going inside your body. And that means if that food is having impurity, it can cause so many problem for you. So that's a student sanitation is very important, that when you are coming back to your house, so you have to wash your hands, or you have to clean your clothes, or you have to sanitize yourself, so that it could be better for you. Exactly, like the sanitization is an important thing nowadays. If we talk about this, so sanitization is a very important thing, and if the sanitization is good, you will be very much free from the diseases. But if the sanitization is not good for you, so diseases would be there definitely. It's not like that, student, that the sanitation is only that washing hands or something like that. For example, that you are living in an area, and near to that area what happened, that there is a big pit, and people used to throw wastage, like some vegetable peels or some waste of their houses into that pit. So what happened, that there could be the impurities are getting evolving, and they are mixing with the atmosphere, and in that atmosphere you are inhaling that oxygen, or exactly. So what happened, that you, because of that also you can face some kind of disease. So that's a student sanitation is very important in every way, and if the sanitation is lacking, so definitely you are going to face any kind of disease. And it's a whole cycle. For example, you can see here, student, that a person who is excreting out his waste, or you can say, so what happened, that the flies are in the environment, and if you are not removing that waste from that area, maybe it could be the possibilities that the flies are going to be sit over it. And when the flies are sitting over it, and see, we don't have any control over the flies. Exactly, so it could be the possibilities that those flies are having the impurities, then they can put over that they can sit over your food also. And if they are sitting on your food, so you can imagine that how many impurities they are lefting over your food, and then you are consuming that food, and that's how you are, you can see that the impurities inside you, and you are getting ill. So that's a student, you can see here, that if someone is excreting out its waste, and it's just that the flies are always there. Or even though that if you are not washing your hands, so impurities are there, you are touching that hand, you are touching that food with your hand. That means after that, student, what will happen, with those hand only you are eating the food, and after eating the food, it's just that the germs are passing inside your body, and when the germs are there, so definitely you can get sick, and that's how the whole process is repeating. That is why, student, whenever you see that some any unwanted thing, or any dirt, or any some kind garbage is near to you, so you have to remove it. Like it's up to you, that if it is under control you, that you can remove it, so definitely you should do this thing. But if you think that you can't remove that waste, so it's just that you have to contact the what we can see municipal community which we are having in our areas. So, okay, so that they can so that the people from there can come, and they can remove such garbage or unwanted things from the environment, so that your sanitization will be maintained, or sanitation will be maintained, so that you will not get disease. So that's a student, it is very important to wash your hands, to see that whether the flies are not sitting over your food, because flies are mostly responsible for such things. Okay, so that's the important point about the sanitation and the diseases. Now, what's the sewage disposal? See, students, as I have told you that for the sewage treatment, first of all, we have to collect the sewage in one particular area, or in one particular tank, so that we can directly purify it. So that's the sewage disposal, student, that the sewage or the wastewater system disposes of the effluent form from a community. That means the unwanted particle or the wastewater which we are getting from the community at a central place, or you can say that at one place, usually called a sewage lagoon or a effluent pond. That means they just made some kind of area in such a way that from all of the houses and from all of the offices or general areas, that the wastewater is getting collected over there, and we call it as the sewage lagoon or the effluent pond. So the sewage can be treated. Now then, sewage can be treated in a septic tank at each building. That means the septic tank, that means the tank which is having some chemicals or such things, so that the impurities can be removed. So the sewage disposal is a very important thing, and in that, what the thing is, that the wastewater is there, so it is going to be collect in we can say that it is going to be collected one particular area, so that there will be the treatment of that sewage. Okay, so as you can see in this picture also, that these are the septic tanks in which the sewage water is collecting, and in different buildings, that these are the that from the houses we are getting, and they are getting collected into some area, and in the from that area it is going to be septic tanks, and that's how the sewage treatment is going to be done, and then the water is going to be again supplied into the houses and buildings or any other area. Fine. So that's the sewage disposal. That means sewage disposal, because what happens, student, that in some of the areas there are no sewers, and when there is no sewer, so it could be the possibility that the wastewater can be flow to any of the area, or to any of the direction. Maybe it could directly flow to some rivers. So that's how, students, the sewage disposal is very important, that when the sewage or the wastewater is coming out from our houses or any of the area, like where the living people, like, no, sorry, living people, that the living beings are living, not exactly animals or the plants, but we are talking about generally human beings, so that they are going to be collected at one particular area, so that there could be the easy for the treatment. Okay, and it is not going to be pollute any other purified water form. So that's how sewage disposal is important. Fine. Okay, so we are having some questions now. So sludge in separate tanks is decomposed to get the biogas. Sludge means sludge is some solid waste, solid human waste, or we can say that solid waste which we are getting from our houses. So the sludge is taken into the separate tank, and here the decomposition has to be done so that the biogas can be formed. Do you know this thing, student, that even though in some village areas what people do, that they just made some kind of structure, that they make a tomb like of structure, this kind of structure they'll do, and what happened, they just collected the sludge over here. Okay, when sludge is there and it is totally covered, that means there is no oxygen. Okay, and when there is no oxygen, so the bacterias are there and they just start decomposing this sludge. And due to this, there is the evolution of the gas, and that is why that gas is called as the biogas. And that gas can be removed from that tomb-like structure where where it has been collected by the people, so that it can be used for the different purposes. So that's how, student, the biogas has been formed. So the sludge is separated into the tanks and it undergoes the decomposition to give the biogas. Now, which bacteria is used for this thing? Yeast? No. Aerobic bacteria, anaerobic bacteria. So as I told you, no oxygen is there. That means the decomposition is going on when there is no oxygen. And if you know this thing, that the anaerobic bacteria performs their action when there is no oxygen. That in the absence of the oxygen. So that's how option C is the answer for this question. Okay. Now, next question. Which one of the following is used in vermi processing toilet? That means the have you heard the word vermicompositing? So in this process, what happens, students, that the decomposers decompose the substance, and these decomposers are like earthworm. So that's a used for the decomposition process, and that process is called as the vermi decomposing. So you can see that option A, earthworm, B, cockroach. So both of these, none of these, no. So that for the vermi compositing, that earthworm is helpful, or you can say that earthworm is acting as a decomposer. Okay. Sewage is mainly a liquid waste, solid, gaseous. C. Sewage we are getting through our pipes, and we are collecting it in some pond, and it is having what kind of structure? That is the liquid state only. So mainly the sewage is the liquid waste, and sewage is what also called as wastewater. So mainly in sewage there is the liquid waste. So option A is the answer. Fine. So that's how, student, we have seen the questions, and we have covered up all of the topics of this chapter, and we have discussed so many points, that how can we conserve water, how can we treat the polluted water, and how can we that what is the wastewater treatment plant, and the sewage disposal. Exactly. So that's how, student. we have covered up all of the topics of the session. Now, few things are left which we are going to cover up in our next session. Till then, what you have to do is you have to watch these two videos of this chapter very carefully. And even though, like after watching these videos, if you're having any question or any query, so you can post your question over the public or the private forum of Ask IITians, and you will get your answer from the expert side. And that's how your chapter is going to be completely done for you, for every point, from every point of view, from here that means from the point of view of your examination. Okay, so in the last, I just want to say thank you for watching this video, and keep learning from us, Thank you.